hold on. I will share my screen.
In the meantime, I'd just like to thank Shino and Maud for the sheer amount of work. I see all the comments on the side. Thankless work, so thank you for doing it.
Yeah, I agree. I also wanted to make the same acknowledgement because I think it's really close to done. Okay, wait, so if I do this, I'm
And
sharing.
an enormous amount of work, so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, but I really can't take the credit. The majority of the work was done by Maud.
Okay.
I mean, to be honest, I just don't agree with some of these edits. I mean, I don't even think some are constitutional. I mean, I appreciate the hard work, but.
Right. Well, I think I agree. Like, I think we need a little more conversation with everybody, like being like, this is the final version. Let's talk about it. This is a final version. I feel like that was the piece that was missing for it could be, I'm not even, it may be, I will take responsibility for like myself. I didn't realize that the last meeting where it was going to be discussed was going to be the last meeting where it was discussed.
Me too. I feel the same way. I was like, okay, and now we're going to have a robust discussion about it. And so,
right. So I just thought that collectively we could now like have a meeting where everyone knows, like, we're going to really try to reach a consensus here. So we don't have to spend time during the calendar meeting when we wanted to vote on it, having like these discussions about the pieces on the margins that there wasn't consensus around.
Just to clarify something, we had 2 bylaw meetings over the summer at which Shino, Eric, and Vincent Hom attended, and we went through all of these. The changes that were inputted were based on the DOE's model bylaws so that they would be in compliance with the DOE model bylaws. And the idea of having a bylaws committee was so that we could have anyone who was interested enough to have robust discussion about the bylaws could join the committee and spend the over 3 hours that we spent going through those. Those were public meetings at which other people did attend. The folks who are now saying they wanted to have robust discussion didn't come to those bylaw meetings. So they were, available for anyone to come to. I'm more than happy to go over it again, but just so we're clear in terms of workflow, the reason we had bylaw committee meetings over the summer and spent so many hours was to go through these line by line, which is what we did.
Yes. And I thought I acknowledged that it was my responsibility that I didn't attend those meetings, but I also do think that when there's a subcommittee that does a lot of work, then that subcommittee has to say, like, we are now presenting that work to the broader council for a discussion. And that I think it should, it's ideal if that's not at the meeting where we're supposed to discuss it, or at a meeting where there's lots of other conversations that are also taking place, that it could be a focused meeting where the other people have an opportunity to talk about it. And I know that it's from I see that it's from the face template, and it's really close to the template, and I think it's almost there. I think there's just some bits at the margins that we can sort of adjudicate because you guys did all the heavy lifting, which is greatly appreciated.
Okay. So could we roll through it from the top and just go through the changes and talk it through?
May I interject? I apologize. I just want to make one thing clear, that we do not have to follow any New York City template. That's merely a suggestion. And any suggestion otherwise goes against the facts that we are a state organization and the hierarchy of law. So I just want to make it very clear that we do not have to be in compliance with anything that the city has suggested, and we can make edits to it if we feel it necessary as a group. And right?
Agreed. And I know that Maud and Eric and Len and Shino made changes to the template that was recommended.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like nice to have something to start off with rather than writing them from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Vincent, did you want to say something?
No, just kind of to follow up on what I think it was Eric who said, let's get going and let's get through it.
Let's get going.
Everything that happened, we are here now, so let's do this.
Right.
Agreed. Okay, and so my understanding, and the folks on the bylaws, and Maud, actually, do you want to Oh, I'm sharing, but do you want to talk through it then?
Robin, it's all yours.
Okay. So this part on the screen, any issues here?
Nope.
No. What was it changed for anyway? Just, it doesn't, why was the first sentence struck? What was wrong with that?
I'm gonna interject. If we do it this way, it's gonna take 2 hours. I don't have 2 hours this morning to do this. These bylaws were forwarded with all of these changes over 3 months ago. If people can't read them and review them in advance,
Okay, so
then
you're
we
wasting
can't
time
go
right
through
now.
them line by line.
Okay, I have a section that I have some questions about. So,
Okay, so
Yeah, I suggest that we roll through and stop at places where people have questions, clarifications, or comments. We don't have to go section
right,
by
no,
right,
Tom
so
had
let's
a
do that.
question.
Sure. Why was the first sentence struck? That is a direct question. It was quick.
Because the section heading is the name and it's not about the document.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay, I have a quick thing here just around content under elections, is that here we've changed it to say to move away from the wording not less than majority of the whole 6, and elsewhere in the document we maintain that wording not less than majority of 6. So just a quick suggestion that we keep it consistent to that not less than majority of 6.
So that would mean adding it back here rather than going through and deleting that language
everywhere else.
in the rest of the document.
Yes.
Further comment on this. This is not just grammatical. This is a substantive change. If 2 people dropped off of this council, we would have a majority of 5, right? So the previous language, I think, was better.
Well, except it says the whole number of the members of the council.
Right.
And I think that
So either way, we agree.
You know what I'm saying?
that's fine. So,
Yeah.
so
Let's
Eric,
just move it back to not less than a majority.
Right.
right.
Yeah,
So
I think there's a reason why it was worded that way, because it's
Right.
always is 6, regardless of the number of the members on the council.
Yeah,
But it didn't
I know, it's
say
just to
6.
be consistent.
Yeah.
It didn't say 6 previously. So if we had 9 members if 2 of us just dropped off immediately, a majority would be 5. And the amended language would make it difficult for a majority, which would be 5, to do anything now, right? So why make the rules more inflexible?
Well, I think the rule is always, I think that is that it has to be of the whole number. It has, like, even no matter how the number of members on the councils change, I think it always has to be 6 people.
Correct.
But that's not what it said. So where are those rules coming from?
It did say that, actually.
Oh, it did?
It always said not less than majority of the whole number of council members.
So
And
the
that
whole
refers
number was 9 because people dropped off.
I think it's the statutory number, Tom, was my understanding.
that was
Okay.
my
Like the
understanding
whole
as well.
number was not the actual sitting members.
Okay.
And again, if you wanted to look into whether that's the state law or not, I'm not sure. I'm just saying that was the way that it always operated, is that even if you had 7 people there, you still needed 6 votes. Because
Okay.
it was statutory.
Okay, that's fair. But okay, I mean, if it's up to me, if it's statutory, then we can go by the statute anyway. We just strike the 6 and 11, and I'd be fine. But
yeah,
what is
and
it
hey,
at?
I'm not sure, and I haven't looked at the statutes, so I couldn't tell you that. I'm just going by that's what I had known, but I don't know if that's the fact. Yeah,
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't think adding the 6 and adding the 11 really does anything if that is the case, right? Because we have the statute together.
yeah. So
I
I
think
just
you
say
can
let's
make
keep it consistent.
I think if you have a council, like a new council who might not be familiar with the statute, it's nice to have those numbers there so that they don't that they know what that means. All right. Anything else on this section?
No.
Now we're here. Anything on this section?
One
Oh,
sec. Oh. I'm just looking at my notes quickly.
I didn't understand, what's the monitoring of the CEC email accounts? Does that mean just like making sure that they have it kind of thing?
Somebody has to check the CEC2@schools.nyc.gov email account.
Gotcha.
That's what that refers to.
Gotcha. Not on. Yeah.
Do we want to include anything about the Facebook and Twitter accounts because they are part of making public notices of things?
yeah. Social media. Well, we could. I think if we broadly add social media, that should cover it. Do we want to either specify that the AA should also be responsible? Is
Yes.
that?
Yes, that's a good idea.
Okay. And then also, do we want something about like, oh, Vincent. Do we want something about making sure that that access to the information can be available to any council member upon request? Or leave it like this, and is that too specific?
No, I like that. Access to anything that's posted, or like say the YouTube videos or I guess the Zoom videos right now. I think we should all have access to the unedited footage. I don't think since it is an account held by the group, that should be available to members on demand because it's just an email to be sent.
Okay.
You know, you can always just rip the files off of YouTube. It's really easy.
But the Zoom isn't available immediately, and we have to wait for that to be uploaded to YouTube. So let's say that a president withholds the recording of the Zoom meeting for weeks before it's uploaded to YouTube. I think the council members should have access to that original Zoom recording.
Which is sort of why I wonder if it should be the AA.
I would be in favor of that because that is a neutral party.
Yes.
And then the only thing is, as I said to Yvette earlier, is if she wins the lottery and runs off, you need someone on the council to also have that information. So the AA should be responsible for sharing it with the president or, and a designee or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think it should be the AA that's primarily responsible. Okay. All right. Moving on. Okay. Anything in here? I'm going to keep going.
That's great.
Treasurer.
Great.
For good cause, though. I mean, come on. What was the reason for that addition, and who is one to determine good cause?
So rather than adjudicate, I know that is a clause in other documents. So let's just say it's there, and do we want it there?
I
don't think it adds anything. I don't care. It doesn't matter. But it seems.
Isn't that standard language in most contracts? Like everything, all of the employment contracts.
Right, but
not being a lawyer that I've ever written for Sloan Kettering when we're hiring people, it's always for good cause.
But this is
unless we want to add moral turpitude, which is another favorite phrase from you lawyers. But I think for good cause is the standard language.
Okay, well, I am an attorney, and that is not necessarily standard. It depends.
Well, this
so, while I appreciate that you've read some contracts, for good cause, then you have to go in and determine what good cause is. Why do we need good cause in there? It adds complications.
I think that this isn't a job, right? It's the officers are selected by their peers.
Right.
And I think adding a cause clause ties people's, can make it, if you've lost the faith of you, I mean, look, I know I'm addressing that, I'm being very oblique, but if you've lost the faith of a majority of the council,
that is good cause, right?
It's
so it adds nothing.
The Band-Aid, and leaving a for good cause leaves it open to months of back and forth trying to adjudicate what good cause is.
I agree. I agree with that 100%. If there are 6 people on this council who feel that an officer shouldn't be there, that's cause enough. So this is not an employment contract with anybody. This is an elected, so for good cause, it just adds complications for no reason, in my opinion, but.
Okay, so do you want to, if you take that language out, then it could instead say for no cause or arbitrarily or for personal grudges or any reason at all, which, you know, the good clause language sets some kind of standard that should be commonly understood by most people.
If it should be commonly understood, then it doesn't need to be there, right?
Well, you don't want to have no standard at all for that type of action, or do you?
The standard is 6 members agreeing. That's the standard, right?
Correct.
It's not a personal grudge when there's 6 people or more affirming that. So I agree that we don't need that clause.
You know, honestly, it doesn't matter. Who cares, right? You want for good cause to be in there. If 6 people want people taken out, that's good cause.
Well, I still think it should be, I think it's too vague. I think it creates, I think we're leaving future councils in a bind if they have to start adjudicating what good cause means.
I agree. I think it's a waste of time, but who cares at the end of the day?
Another point in this section that actually was brought up to me by someone in FACE is that, is that she generally recommends this part take place in a regular or special business meeting, not a calendar meeting.
I would agree with that.
Because just like at our annual meeting or at any election vote, we don't open that conversation up for public comment because it's really an internal decision. Doing it at a business meeting or doing it at a business meeting is a closer analog to what the annual meeting looks like when we select officers.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Okay, so we're going to change that to a regular or special business meeting. Okay. Any other concerns about this section? Okay, we're going to move along. So my understanding is this section on absences has been moved to further down in the document. It wasn't actually deleted, it was just reordered. So we'll get there. So now we have Article 3 meetings.
I think that looks good. Wait, did it say local? You have to do local news media?
Yeah, I mean, that's left over. I think that's actually in the state law.
Okay.
And we have meetings.
Just have to send it to them. They don't have to publish it, right? You have to alert them.
They're on our constant contact. So
that's on our email list, presumably.
Yeah.
Do we do that?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We have reporters in our list.
Mm-hmm.
That looks good to me.
I don't agree with.
Okay.
This is interesting.
Ben was saying that it's kind of hard to do the conversion. I don't know how, if that's, you know, maybe it's just due to time constraints, but within the week, I don't know. Like, why can't we just post the actual Zoom meeting to our website and then rip it and put it on YouTube later?
It just depends. So I don't think you can, there's a limit to how much space Zoom lets you. Yeah, no, you could do that.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if you can host, I don't know if Zoom hosts it. Zoom might want you to download it and move it to another server. It's just a matter of sitting down and having the bandwidth to download it and move it somewhere.
Yeah, but all right. So I used to use Zoom for work. Now I use Teams. But like right after the Zoom call, if I was a host, the video would become available within like 5 minutes. It's in like, I don't know, AVI format or something like that. Why wouldn't we just take that and post it to our website right underneath where the announcement for the meeting was? I mean, great, put it on YouTube too. But why can't we use our own website to post our meetings? That just doesn't make sense to me.
I don't know. Maybe just a few business days, just because the meetings happen at night, and if the AA has a sick day or something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, within the week is fine in that respect. I'm just saying, like, it seems like we have a lot of delay due to YouTube posting. You want to leave it, that's fine. I just was trying to streamline it.
I think now that it's going to live under the AA, I think it's good to give the AA a little flexibility.
Okay. All right, I'm fine.
Okay. ADA accessible facilities. All right, so now we have attendance at meetings.
And this is by statute, the state statute. I remember we had this, like, this was like a problem.
So I know that we are established by state law. I do not believe some of this is they're clearly citing state law. Some of it is coming from chancellor's regulations.
Got it.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
I don't understand that. I mean, I think the thing is that the state law also gives the state a lot of, gives the city a lot of, right? And the state, frankly, doesn't want to be bothered with adjudicating this.
Yeah, I mean, that's how state laws work anyway. It's the local
we may be within our rights to say, the state law should supersede the city. I think we'd have to be prepared for the state to say, we don't care.
Well, I mean, we are the state, right? So
is there anything here, Tom? Is there anything in here that, like, the part that's noted refers to chancellor's regs that you don't like?
I would honestly, I would cut out, if it was me. I mean, you have your own, feelings on this, but I would take out anything that references chancellor's regs, because those are chancellor's regulations. That's a city organization. I don't think it's necessary to have those in there, but that's my opinion. If you guys differ.
I mean, the thing is, if you cut that out, Tom, then there's no definition of what constitutes a valid excuse.
Correct. Well, if you cut out the preface of it, if you say as provided in chancellor's regulations, you could just say the following shall constitute.
Got it.
You know what I mean? So it's a reference to the city, not the content of it, that annoys me. I think those are all legitimate. I just don't think we need to have as provided in chancellor's regulations, because we're supposed to be overseeing the Department of Education, not the other way around. And that, to me, is, I don't know, one of my primary rubs with what we're doing here.
Okay. I have no problem with removing that line. Does anyone else feel like we have to keep it in? Not the line, just this part that's highlighted.
Oh,
No,
you're just going from following?
No, you're gonna start with the
follow. So this will go out, and it'll just say, these are what we think.
Yeah. I mean, we make our bylaws, not the chancellor.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, it brings up the larger point, though, which is the whole conversation on absences was that in the past we had language that said, if you miss a certain number of meetings for any reason, whether excused or unexcused, you're available to be removed from the council.
Yes.
Just because we believe people need to show up, right, to participate, to be part of the council. Yep. And the DOE told us, and when I say told us, I don't know what that means, but basically told us that you can't remove someone for excused absences.
So
if
So
you had,
someone missed 6 meetings, and we said, hey, if you're going to miss 6 calendar meetings, like, you forfeit your role in the council. And the DOE said you can't remove them.
Just to
Yeah.
clarify something,
Oh,
this is a working business meeting, right?
Yes.
yeah.
So we didn't take roll call at this meeting. We did not, note who's present, who's not present, as we're required to do. I don't know who's running this meeting. But the reality is, with regard to Tom's issue about chancellor's regulations, the state law that creates community education councils specifically empowers the chancellor's regulations to modify all of the parts of that govern community education councils. It's in the state law that the chancellor's regs themselves can be modified with regard to CECs. Also, when you guys say you'd have to deal with the state and they may not want to deal with you, you can appeal various decisions to the New York State Education Department, but that's an appeal, which means that you first start at the city level and you have to have a dispositive answer from the New York City DOE before you go to NYSED, to New York State Education Department, for relief. That's true of not just New York City, but it's true of other, if you look at the NYSED decisions, they're all appeals from the local agencies. That's how it works. There's an interplay between the local education department and the state law. So the idea that you can just pretend the chancellor doesn't exist and just be a New York State Education Department body is not actually true, and it's not how the law is structured.
Okay, is there a chancellor's reg or state law that says that line, as provided in chancellor's regulations, D140, 150, 160, 170, needs to be in our bylaws?
No, but I think Eric, we can. I think we're all okay leaving that out. Thank you, Maud, for that clarification. I think it's really helpful. And I think what Eric's point was just that we used to want to be, we wanted to have a higher barrier, or we wanted to be able to remove people who didn't show up, even if it's for work-related reasons, because ultimately you're not really participating in the council if you're missing like the most basic foundational thing, even if it's for a good reason. And it was essentially the DOE's legal department interpretation of the state law that, as Maud said, is how the law is written, that the DOE gets to interpret it first, unless we want to appeal it, that says we cannot remove people from our council for missing too many meetings with an excuse, if it falls under one of these excuses. So I don't think there's anything else to discuss here. This is what we've been told is the interpretation of the state law.
and the fact is that if all of a sudden somebody came up to the sixth one and we voted that it was okay and that we gave them a pass, we could vote and do that, right?
Well, we don't even have 6 here anymore anyway. But
So
yeah, we only have 3 but it's essentially 3 no-shows, right?
So far, yes.
Yeah.
Right. We have, along those lines. I did record who was here, and the 3 that are not here right now: Edward, Ben, and Len Silverman. So, and that counts as some of the unexcused absences, right?
No.
Not
No,
working
it's a
business.
calendar meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
Both
All right,
our
thanks for
current
clearing that up.
bylaws and these new proposed bylaws specify calendar meetings, not working business meetings.
Okay, great.
So by the way, just to add to this, the last time we had a sticky situation, we couldn't remove a member, but what we've done is the leadership team, that's the president, vice president, actually met with a member a few times to counsel that member to resign. So it's not as if there's nothing we can do. And even with 3 unexcused absence, it is a resolution, which means it requires the vote of 6 of us to pass to remove a member, just so that we're clear on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we can move on. Okay.
Yeah.
Annual meeting. So I think we should make note that it calls for wait, what? We're going to do election of officers in August? Oh, no later than the second Wednesday of August. Okay. It calls for the Wednesday of August. Excuse me. Let me say that again. The meeting is convened on the second Wednesday in July. And then let's jump ahead to calendar meetings and keep that in mind while we discuss this, because I think there's already like maybe a disconnect here. And I know I think this is a little prescriptive to specify a day of the week and a time in the bylaws.
I always have a problem with that in PTA bylaws, frankly, because it can preclude people from running.
Exactly. I wouldn't.
So I was going to say quickly, I think there's a difference between the annual meeting and the calendar meeting. So I think the annual meeting is just once a year. And I wonder if you could change it, but I think that's just set to ensure that the council kicks off.
Yep.
Yes, annual meetings should stay as it is. It's the rest of the calendar meetings that shouldn't, in my opinion, be prescribed in the bylaws.
Yeah, that's fine. Man.
I would just scratch on the second Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. I would just, I don't.
Why?
I just don't think that you should set in the bylaws when you have to have meetings.
It does remove some flexibility. Yeah, because then we couldn't even change it. I mean, I do see your point. Yeah.
Really tough.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a professor, you have a class you teach every, Tuesday, then you wouldn't even consider running for the CEC, and that is
Not
to
good.
me a barrier.
We just have it say shall be set in the annual meeting what the periodicity is for the meetings for the forthcoming year.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. I'm just making a note. Okay, good.
One other quick thing, at the end of that section, it talks about the AA kicking off the meeting if there's not a returning officer.
Yeah.
That's in two places. If you go to section 2 at the top, elections, it says it has that same paragraph. So I don't know if which place it should be, but it's in two places right now.
Got it. I guess it should be in the office. I don't know.
Should be at the annual meeting section.
In the annual meeting section? Okay,
Yes.
we'll leave it there and remove it from the earlier instance. Okay. Guess we did this. Working business meetings. Great. Edward is here. Yvette, can you make Edward a co-host, please? Should we, this also seems kind of prescribed. Do we need to say that we have to?
I would say same language that Ushma suggested. I do think it makes sense to keep before or after the calendar meeting because, but then I would for the date, what Ushma prescribed before, I think makes sense.
Yeah. And then what about, should it be, shall hold proceeding or at the conclusion? Okay, so that just gives the council the flexibility to decide.
It have to be on the third Thursday of the same month.
No, we're going to take that out.
Okay, great.
Use the language Ushma suggested.
Okay, great.
Okay. Special meetings.
That sounds good. Obviously, email.
Yeah.
Oh wait, Eric, didn't you have 3 council members?
What?
3 members have to request.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that stuck out to me here is that the special meeting must be held not more than 2 weeks after receipt of the request. That, I don't know if that's too long, too short, but that seems like a little long, a bit of a time
I
lapse
think
to
that
me.
seems reasonable.
Okay.
1 week just seems
Okay.
difficult to gather people
Okay.
up with busy schedules.
Okay, that's fine.
Executive sessions.
Proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property. I wish we could do that.
All right.
Okay, the resolutions part.
Yeah, I don't like this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
surprise,
let's
surprise.
start from the beginning.
Any
First of
council-
all, before we get to resolutions, any council may submit an item to be added to the agenda up to 7 days prior to the meeting.
Well,
And
first, I think we have
7
to
calendar
clarify.
days
Yeah, if it's calendar or
Yeah,
business,
for
so
business.
calendar.
Calendar?
Calendar.
Yeah,
So what's the rule right now?
I don't know.
It doesn't say, but right now the rule is any council member can ask for an item to be added to the agenda.
Okay, because I did ask to have the discussion of the removal of the chancellor on our agenda, and that never happened for some reason. Whoops.
Where we do what? You said, Tom? I missed
I
it. You
said
said
I
what about
wanted-
the?
For our next calendar meeting to have a discussion of the removal of the chancellor added to our agenda. And I'm a council member, and that
Well,
doesn't seem like it's added to the agenda.
Okay, I didn't hear, it doesn't matter the details. So you should be able to add it to an agenda.
Sure.
I think that there can be like, whether something goes in the calendar meeting agenda for discussion or a working business meeting agenda might be up to that could be at the president's discretion. But you should be able to request an item be added for, a discussion item as opposed to a resolution.
Well, I guess the question is, it just says here submit, right? That doesn't mean
Right, that it gets added. Yeah.
right. So I don't know what that process is. I mean, I
Yeah.
assume I assume it's up to the president, right? What gets on the agenda, or how does that work, or should that be prescribed?
Well, it is prescribed in the next sentence, right? The president shall, with the assistance of the administrative assistant, prepare the agenda for circulation.
Oh.
So I guess we could submit something. It's up to the president whether it makes it.
Okay.
Right?
That's how it's written right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm
Okay.
saying.
I mean, there's also just, sometimes people get bogged down in emails or whatever, right? So you send the
Right.
president, you say, I want to add this, then they forget to add it. And it's on you to read the agenda and say like, oh, I thought I added this thing. Why didn't you, why isn't it there? And like, that's a thing that happens.
Yeah, so I think our addition of that sentence really does nothing, but okay.
So then before we go on though, I mean, is there a reason to have, so basically you're saying right now that it has to be 7 calendar days before to be considered, right? And then the president will consider to put it on or not.
I don't see a
So-
reason for that. Does anybody? I
So
mean,
you
why
would-
was it there?
Take out that.
I mean, I mean, the only reason I could see, Tom, is that then, if the president said, "Hey, you didn't get it to me in enough time," I developed the agenda 27 days before the meeting. I'm making, I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what
So-
you mean. I'm just thinking in the modern times right now where schools open and close in the matter of days, that maybe it's 7 days, like maybe something will come up within 7 days that we really want to add to the agenda.
Yeah.
You know?
But maybe then we should make it closer. I guess this at least makes it clear that it has to be considered, right? If you submit it within 7 days of the meeting, it at least has to be considered.
Yes, it doesn't mean that it couldn't get on if you proposed it
Right.
in 4 days.
Right.
Yeah, I understand that, but has to be considered. What does that even mean? Like, okay, I submitted it like 10 days ago. Okay, I considered it.
I'm not sure. I guess I was just saying that at least then council, I give this not a big point, but then at least council members know, hey, if I want something to be considered for the agenda, this is the process, right? And at minimum, if I get it in by 7 days before, it's up for consideration. I don't know if there's value in that or not.
I think that it's intended to allow the public also to have notice of what the agenda items are within a reasonable time. If you submit something 3 days before, the agenda may have already been published to give them, the public, reasonable notice of what's going to be discussed. So
yeah, that's a very
not
good
just
point.
us, it's
All
the public as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what are we doing with that sentence?
Okay, we could scratch it. I think I just was talking it through, but if it's, we don't need to make them longer.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. But...
So we're gonna scratch that sentence.
I thought, no, the point I was making was there's a need to retain some
Minimum.
advance notice so that it's fair to the president and fair to our clients in terms of receiving ample notice of what's to be discussed.
Okay.
And for the president to decide. And so if you make it any shorter, you'll run into problems with providing notice to the public about what's going to be discussed.
Fair enough, but I don't think that this addresses your concern, right? Because it doesn't say that the president has to publish the agenda at any point in time.
Don't we
Well,
have it
there's a
somewhere?
meeting notice requirement.
Okay.
Yeah, that's open meetings law.
But
so
that
it's
doesn't
not in this
include the
section.
agenda.
Yeah,
But does that
exactly.
include the agenda?
And in fact, you don't have to, you don't have to publish the agenda until right before the meeting, as long as you notice the meeting.
So we should change
So
that.
there you go.
That
Yeah.
is not a good practice.
But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to Vincent's point, then maybe we should put something in there around the notice, including in it something, including an agenda or something like that.
So
I do.
And if we also put in the order of business at calendar meetings, if we put new business in there, if a substantive issue comes up within that time period, we could just address it there. I'm unsure why we don't have new business in a calendar meeting agenda.
Yeah. Well, also you could always change the agenda at the meeting, Tom, right? Just by a vote of the council.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you could still put new business in. I'm just saying,
Right,
but
yeah.
I'm saying, yeah, at the meeting. But okay.
okay, so we're gonna leave this in, and we're also going to include a note that says that the agenda should be circulated within X business days. We're gonna leave this in. We're gonna specify that it's 7 calendar days prior to the meeting. And then we're also want to have a notice that the agenda should be circulated at the time of the, like, within X days.
Of the meeting.
Now, are you going to use should or must? Because if you say should and it doesn't happen,
I
not
do
that
wanna-
big a deal. Must is kind
Right.
of improvement.
I
Right?
think it should be should, and we're gonna try our hardest.
Okay, that's fine with me. I just wanted to point
For
out. to you.
volunteers. All right, resolutions may be placed on the agenda by.
I don't like this.
So what don't you like?
I don't think it should be 3 members of the council. I don't think there's that requirement in Congress. I think that anybody who wants to submit a resolution and has been elected to the council should be able to place a resolution on up for debate. I don't understand. I understand the point of collaboration, but I don't think, and I think that should be suggested, but I don't think it should be an affirmative requirement to have 3 people. It eliminates independency from a council.
So obviously the idea right behind it, and we see if there's value, is that there should be enough people supporting an idea to give it time, right? You know, and on the agenda, and if you can't get 3 people to agree that it's worth, you know, time discussing, then I guess that precludes not filibustering, but just throwing a lot of stuff out there. I understand your point too, so let's talk it through. But I guess that's why it's there, right? Is to make sure that there's enough support for it to be viable.
So I think it's two reasons actually that it's there. You have to have two other people who agree, but also when you have someone putting something on the agenda at the last minute, it doesn't give the public school parents who we're supposed to be representing an opportunity to read it in advance, to think about it, to share it with their school communities, and to put on their calendar a CEC meeting that may or may not be addressing an issue that's of direct concern to their community. We don't exist in a vacuum. We're supposed to be representing 49 schools. And I think when an individual puts something on an agenda at the last minute on the night in question and doesn't have a written copy being circulated beforehand to school communities, it's really self-serving and doesn't allow us to do our job of communicating the ideas that we're discussing with the relevant school communities.
So there's two issues though, Maude. One is when you notice a resolution, and the other is how many people it takes to get a resolution on the agenda. I think the second point certainly agree with, right? That there needs to be dissemination, of the resolutions. But if we stick on the first point, right? If, could one person submit a resolution a week in advance? What's your feelings on that?
I think it's a giant waste of time if you can't find two people to agree with you that the item should at least be on the agenda. Then we're sending out notices to people for something that is certainly not going to pass. If you can't even find two people who agree with you that it should be on the agenda, you're not going to find 5 votes of people who agree with you to pass a resolution. And I think we have a responsibility to school communities not to waste their time and send out what essentially amounts to a self-indulgence, as opposed to something that has been discussed among a sufficient number of council members and added to the calendar in a reasonable manner.
Yeah, so I want to address those points because, we're volunteers and, like some of us have full-time jobs where we're working up to 80 hours a week. And sometimes it's hard to build a consensus around a resolution that you just like to discuss at a meeting that you're supposed to go to, right? And I know I have representatives in be it Congress or city council, and they're paid, and even they have less restrictions on them, I believe. So to add this additional burden to people in a volunteer position, I feel to be burdensome. So, if we don't have to discuss anything for a long period of time. You can immediately put it up for a vote if you don't want any discussion. You can immediately vote it down. But I don't feel that the consensus building is, first of all, something that everybody has the time for. And second of all, I think it really interrupts independence on this council and divides it into factions for no particular reason.
Doesn't being asked to collaborate to just get a sign off from 2 other people, like, breed cooperation and reduce factionalizing?
Well, that's not how it works out in practice. We know that. To me, personally, I just don't have the time to build consensus sometimes. I just want to discuss it at the meeting. We have 5-hour meetings. I can't throw something up there to discuss. Why not? You don't want to talk about it? Fine.
I guess I would say that if our time is precious, the amount of time it should take to just get to send the email to the group, say, can I get 2 co-sponsors for this? If you can't, then why should we, if time is precious, why are we using then everyone's time at the meeting to put it up and then vote it down?
Well, that's a fair point. I'm not saying it's not a fair point, but so what I'm saying is, if members of Congress don't have this constraint, is it really fair to place it on volunteers?
I guess at this point, we can leave it and come back. The bylaws require 6 people to approve them, just like anything else.
Right, that's fine.
So,
Let me also just say that any other legislative bodies, yes, a member can introduce a bill,
Right.
but the bill goes nowhere unless you get co-sponsorship, right? So you can introduce it, but they still have to get co-sponsors for that bill to go anywhere. So
Fair enough.
and
Fair
also having worked on many resolutions, I think having two other people's perspectives on the issue that you're crafting a resolution on is really, really important, because I have blind spots, and having two other members who review what I put down and say, well, here, this doesn't make sense, let's do it this way. That actually makes a much better resolution that is worthy of public consideration. I'm not saying you're not capable, I'm not capable of crafting good resolutions, but they are much better when you have two other members bringing their perspectives.
Is a good practice, and I just want the opportunity to, by analogy, introduce a bill on the floor, like members of Congress are allowed to do unilaterally. So just introduction on the floor is what I'm asking for. That's it.
that could
So
be,
is that a new business thing, Tom? I'm just trying to think through.
That could be new business.
or a working business meet. Like a lot of times that's what working business meetings are used to do.
Yeah.
I
But I think the calendar meeting is where you introduce things to the public to try and get them to think about it. And if it doesn't pass, then it at least starts the conversation.
So maybe it's new business. Maybe that when we get to the agenda, we add that new business area that you suggested. And that's a chance to say, hey, I'm thinking of doing X or Y, or this is an important thing for us to consider.
So we could introduce draft resolutions, maybe.
Okay, so let's.
Right, okay, so I'm fine with that, if you want to keep that, and I can introduce a draft resolution during a calendar meeting under new business. I am fine with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, because there'd be a different
I
approach
don't
to
know
it.
that
Right.
needs to be codified in the bylaws.
Okay.
Yeah, you can
It
leave
doesn't need
this
to
in.
be codified in bylaws. You can always introduce anything in new business. You can't vote on a resolution that you've introduced in new business.
Right, that's fine,
Right.
as long as there is a new business, because there hasn't been in some previous meetings. So I just want to make sure that I can introduce a draft resolution during new business.
Okay.
And if we're
Okay, so let's,
Great.
so
You can
let's,
do
when
it
we
in the
get to agenda.
next section in the
Okay, so-
agenda. We'll just add a new
Okay,
business
Cool,
section.
yeah.
Now we're still looking at resolutions that are going to be on the agenda to be voted on. And so we have now this 3 members agree stuff that we're agreed on, and this part here too. Is
Yeah.
everyone okay with the rest of that?
Mhm.
Mhm.
The council shall report attendance of members.
One quick thing that just jumps out at me, the last line of this section where it says no member of the public shall be required to sign the sign-in sheet to attend a calendar meeting. So that's for in-person.
Yeah, good point.
And, obviously now online, we're asking people to register. I don't know if there's a conflict there, something we're comfortable with, not comfortable with, but it just jumps out at me.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but that's not technically a sign-in sheet, right? Maybe we get around it with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I just wanted to point it out.
They can register and not still come to the meeting. So I guess that's the distinction, right?
But could they?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They don't have to attend if they register.
And they could be using
But the point
any
is you should
name.
be able to attend without registering. It's the opposite point.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's what it says. You don't have to give your name. So basically, I'm just trying to think. I think if you want to speak at a meeting, you have to give your name, right?
Right.
But if you just want to attend a meeting in person, the bylaws say you could remain anonymous.
Did anybody go to the virtual meeting training that FACE did last week? Did they? I don't know if they have any recommendations.
It just seems to me that you can kind of remain anonymous and sign in. You can sign in under Jane Doe and give your email.
Oh yeah. You can totally make up your name and
Well,
fake email account.
All right, to get really technical, do we have access to the IP addresses that are logged in? Because then they're not anonymous at all, regardless.
If you have to register, you have to do it with an email address. If people want to just click on a Zoom link and come, they should be able to do that without having to register and give their email address. The spirit of allowing people to attend a meeting without having to sign in a sheet is most honored by letting people click on a Zoom link and attend a meeting.
What is
Well, I was going to say, I was going to say that the difference, the little difference I see, Maude, is that how you manage or control the setting is different in an online meeting versus an in-person meeting. And that's the piece that I'm stuck on. I don't know how to resolve that, but I agree that there should be anonymity. You should be able to attend a meeting without, anonymously, whatever that means. But there's a control piece. Oh, go ahead.
Onto YouTube, so that if people don't want to sign in, they can come to the YouTube link and just watch, and then they're anonymous.
I have a question.
Yes, Yvette.
I was told that the reason why that the council wants people to register is to avoid Zoom bombing.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Well, it doesn't eliminate it, but it reduces the risk, because if people have to give their name, that just, weeds out casual Zoom bombers.
They have to give a name, not their name, right?
Right. They could, if they're really intent on Zoom bombing or a meeting, there's a myriad ways of doing that. But just having this one little thing will dissuade some of the more casual people who want to just come in and do whatever.
Yeah, I don't think it's a huge issue. I just wanted to point it out because it was clear in the bylaws about in-person meeting, and now that we're in electron or online meetings, if we needed to clarify anything.
Right. We don't have safety
Yeah.
officers, right? In the real person meeting, anyone can walk in, but we also have safety officers. And in a virtual space, this registration process is sort of the proxy safety officer.
Okay. Yeah.
So
And as we said, many other councils are doing it. Other public meetings require you to do it. So I don't think it's a burden. I just wanted to point it out.
Yeah.
So going forward, we're still going to continue with the registration.
Unless, I guess we can take a vote on it at the next working business meeting officially to see where we stand on it. We can't really decide now, but I think for the December meeting, it's a town hall, so people have to register for the chancellor anyway. And for, I think
there's an example of making people register for the meeting.
Agreed.
Oh yeah, city council too.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if we wanted to, we can be live streaming our meeting. Right? For those people who don't want to speak and don't want to register, we can think about just Facebook live stream or YouTube live stream, and we'll solve all the problems of public access.
Okay. Agreed.
All right.
Okay. Are we up to order of meetings?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, this is just one that when we look at the agenda, I really think that the presentation and discussion of resolution should be separated, and the presentation should be at the beginning of the meeting and the discussion towards the end. I think it's a miss that we have these meetings and we don't present the resolutions at the start, which is going to drive a lot of the conversation and public sessions. And I think that should be at the start of the meeting, that the resolution should be presented, and there should probably be a time limit, maybe 2 minutes per resolution, but they should be introduced so the public could hear it.
I agree.
I would agree with that too.
But can we make
Hi,
it?
Dorothy. My name is Maude Marin. I got your name from Donalda Chumney.
Oh, I just muted her, so we don't have to listen
Yeah, I
to
was
that.
gonna say.
Okay. I would say yes, present the resolutions, but council member discussions, I would like it to be later.
Yes, agreed.
right?
I think they
So
should be
just
separated.
Make it, yeah.
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 Okay.
So when would you want the discussion, council member discussion? Would that be
I
after?
think just before, I think before the second public session, it has to be. It would be
Yeah.
after the first public session, so
Yeah.
we hear them.
Yeah.
And then the public needs to have a chance to respond after we speak. So I would keep it there, but just move the presentation to the front.
I like it.
I agree.
Before or after program presentation?
After,
After, yeah.
I would say after.
Okay, so we hear when there's going to be a 20-minute presentation about campaign for C4E, we're going to make everyone sit through that before we tease our resolutions, right?
I mean, maybe we should have the program presentation a little bit later in the meeting, you know, because I agree. Sometimes it's a half an hour. I don't know, somebody, why do we give them the ability, unless it's the highlight of the meeting?
I think just because they're taking their time out of their evening to come.
Oh, fair enough.
So
Yeah, scheduling. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between invited speakers and speakers who want to come, like the school construction authority, but we can always tell them you have 20 minutes, that's it. And just control how much time we spend on presentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll move the presentation up to before of the resolutions to number 2, and then and program presentation, and then we can move approval of the minutes to where we vote on resolutions, because that's boring. Does that make
Sure.
sense?
Sure.
That's fine.
Okay.
And this may be a separate issue, but is there any way to eliminate politicians from using our platform as kind of a tool for them? Because I've noticed that we have some politicians that come on and run on about what they do. It seems like a campaign for some of them. And I find that annoying, but if everybody else doesn't, you know.
I think it's a nice courtesy to them. I think we can ask them politely to limit themselves to 2 minutes, but at a lot of it's just sort of a protocol to let the electeds go first.
yeah. I get what you're saying, Tom. I don't know how to change it, but you know.
Yeah, it's off-putting, right?
It just comes with the territory, and on occasion, we're going to need them for something. So
I hear that, but if they have a meeting, do I get to go on their meetings and campaign for education for, you know, however long I want? No.
I don't know if you go on to one of their meetings, you could let us know how, if you want to try that.
Okay.
They invite you to their meetings.
Oh, all right. I mean, I've gone to a few, and I have.
No, but sometimes they do. They ask us to speak, right? At
Oh.
forums and stuff.
Maybe it's me.
Okay. So, public. Okay, so all this. Public shall have opportunity to comment. I think this all looks good.
So we are adding the new business. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah,
we'll
sorry. Yeah.
this as a standing agenda item.
Yes.
Are we okay with this? Moving on. Okay, so this is, the section that's X'd out was replaced by this section here.
Okay, this is committees, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
My only question on committees is, or committee chairs, it says here it asks, and which may be fine, the council may veto the appointment or removal of a committee chair. So do we want it to be approved by the council or veto, or it would have to be vetoed? Just one would require an affirmation and the other would be president appoints chairs. And unless someone wants to bring a vote up to veto it, I don't know if there's a difference, but I interpret it one as scenario A, the president appoints a committee chair and there is a required vote to approve that committee chair. The way it's written now is president appoints a committee chair and only if there's a vote brought up to veto it, would there be a vote on the chair? I don't know if I'm interpreting that right way, but that's the way I see it. Are we good with it, not good with it?
I think that the veto is probably better actually in this, because if somebody feels so strongly that somebody can't be a committee chair, that would be an affirmative thing. And if not, then I mean, why even take the vote, right?
Okay.
Maybe it saves
So it
time.
stands.
And
Yeah.
just to be clear, just so we know, that's going to be a shift from how both our current bylaws are written and how it looks like what the template recommends, which is that it's an affirmative approval for each appointment.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in favor of going against the template.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fine to say it's the prerogative of the president to appoint their cabinet, but I just wanted to point out that that's what it is.
Yeah, it is.
Does anyone else have opinions on it? Vincent,
I mean,
are you talking?
President has a majority of it, right? So we're voting somebody with a majority already.
So in the past, we actively voted to approve the committee chairs, I believe, and now we're just going to allow the appointments to proceed unless there's enough opposition to that choice to constitute a valid vote against.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
I guess it, as Tom said, it saves a couple of votes, the effort to vote affirmatively.
Okay, so we're gonna leave that in. Especially appointed and removed by the president. Shall serve until the president's term expires. Okay. Wait, there was something else. Oh. Wait, I thought give me a second. No, I guess that's it. Okay. I don't know if this was removed for a reason. Is it just too much work to seek public comment on the goals and objectives and performance indicators?
Yeah, why was that struck? Just curious.
It is too much work.
Okay, if that's sure, yeah.
So we're doing vacancies.
Yes.
The one small thing I saw here was just for clarification, the last piece where it says the council shall interview candidates. It says the council shall request the presence and participation during the interview process of president's council and members of the community. And then it says the council shall request that they submit any recommendation in writing following the close of the interview. Is that, who do we want recommendations from? Is that members of the community, the president's council, everyone? Or if not nothing, but I don't know. I just don't know what that means, if that's a formal part of the process.
I mean, I remember when I was interviewed, Matthew was there as president of the President's Council.
Right. I think it's about the recommendation, I guess, is the question. Is that something formal?
I mean, it's
Or we're
really,
just saying everyone who's been there could make recommendations?
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It reminds the council to solicit feedback. If
Okay.
people don't want to do so, they don't have to do so. Like if
Okay.
the President's Council's like, I don't care.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. Or is it
Yeah.
open?
No, that's fine.
So
I was just.
I think that
Vincent,
also limits consideration of opinions to those that are received in writing. You can't just take someone's calendar meeting comment as a recommendation about who to select to fill the vacancy. So whoever is interested in commenting has to, whether they're a member of the public or the President's Council, will have to submit a written opinion or recommendation that you can have in your hand, so to speak, as opposed to just somebody's off the cuff comment in their 2 minutes.
Okay.
Good.
Sounds
So it's
good.
good.
Okay. Any council meeting following the interviews? Okay. Notice. Does this make people uncomfortable? I sort of feel like you should finish the meeting with the old rules and then start the next meeting with the new rules. This part that I've highlighted, it just seems confusing to like change in the middle of a meeting which rules you're adopting, but that's a very minor point.
Well, I
You
agree
could
with you.
change that to immediately following the meeting at which the changes are adopted.
Is that
Yeah,
okay with
yeah,
everyone?
I like that.
Everyone's okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, parliamentary authority and compliance. So I think this is the part where there's not consensus right now. So let's talk about it.
Now, all official communications shall be sent through the official council's email address. Okay. What constitutes official and unofficial?
So that's like any meeting notices, like
Okay.
have to come from from CEC 2. Like I can't be like, I'm gonna send a meeting notice to the constant contact from Robin.
That makes sense.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that it doesn't mean, like, I have been sending out my students with disabilities meeting notices, not through my CEC email, because there's a limit. You can only send a certain number of people through your email. I used to send them just directly from my CEC email, but I just want to make sure it's just difficult. It's difficult to,
No, that's a good point.
It's an unwieldy platform, the actual.
So can you explain why you would be sending an email and not like about a committee, something from the committee that wouldn't come from a vet? Like, here's a note from the Students with Disabilities Committee.
Sure. I mean, I send a newsletter that I set up through MailChimp, because I know how to use MailChimp. And so I just set it up that way. And yeah, I don't know. It just, and I could do it through a vet, I could, but it's another step in the process. And it definitely, you know, sometimes I work on it late at night, and I don't know. It's another step, and maybe it's good to go through that step. I think that then we should open it up to MailChimp and lots of different platforms that people know how to use, because I don't feel like learning how to use Constant Contact.
I don't blame you. I guess my concern is that like we know what we know how you're using it.
Right, but there could be.
And like it doesn't have a problem. But I think like we know we've all been sitting on a council that we've had some trust issues.
Yes.
And I think it makes sense for that stuff to live with the AA.
It's fine. I just think that if that's the case, then the ease with like, yeah, there's got to be more built in. Like it shouldn't be through the council's email address only. It should be through multiple platforms. Because like, for example, I send my newsletter out through MailChimp.
The email address just means like who it's like like when a vet uses constant contact to send a notice.
Yep.
Go through the council official's email address because you're just using constant contact instead of Gmail. But like you could give a vet the content for your newsletter and then she sends it out from CEC2 at nyc.schools.gov and it's from the Students with Disabilities Committee.
He does that too.
Right. But could all of the content that you're generating for Students with Disabilities Committee go through, be passed to a vet first? I understand it's creating extra steps and labor. I think we have to think about this bylaws document.
And that's what I think we have to think about it only just because the way that I set it up in MailChimp, it's not like, hey, here, Yvette, set up this newsletter. That's a lot of work. It takes me hours to do that.
Are you paying for the MailChimp?
No, because I'm under a certain number of people. If it got over a certain number of people, then you have to pay.
I just wonder if we could create a CEC MailChimp.
That would be great.
Yeah, that would make sense, right?
And move the content into the CEC MailChimp.
I'm just saying, and if somebody else knows, I don't know, whatever it is, there's probably something else besides constant contact and MailChimp. I think that if you know how to do whatever it is you know how to do, you should be able to do it, but through a vet. I feel like there should be a control. I agree, but it should also be flexible so that, you know, if Vincent knows Slack, I mean, I just put Slack, I know that's not, but if he knows something, how to do something, he should be able to do it, but through a vet. So I don't know how to work that into the bylaws. I
don't think we have to, I think that the way the bylaws are written allow for that, right?
Okay.
We're not going to specify a single, like, I don't care. Again, like everything we're doing is legacy pretty much. Like our website is terrible and it's a legacy and it's my fault, but that's what I picked a long time ago because the one before it was even worse. And constant contact is just what we were using. And certainly it can be constant contact and MailChimp depending on the need, or we could migrate to MailChimp and none of that needs to be prescribed.
Conversely, I could
protocol
change my MailChimp to be, you know, something different and then say, and by the way, there's also, you know, whatever, there are ways to do it. I just, that CEC email is clunky. It doesn't, like it doesn't promote like morative, like added, it's not additive, it's subtractive.
Right. But so this isn't requiring that you use constant contact or Gmail.
Okay.
This section of the protocol. It's just suggesting that it can't come from Emily.
Got it. Great.
Okay.
And I also think it's weird that, I mean, I don't know, have access to, what is that all about? I mean, I think the administrative assistant should, but it's, I don't know, who reads, I don't know, are people reading other people's emails? That gets weird.
So again, the DOE issued email account refers to CEC2 at schools.nyc.gov.
Mm-hmm.
So the AA reads that.
Right.
And the president, this says the president can read that. Anyone can read it if they want, like in my opinion. I don't know if we need to codify it. And the idea is like, you know, there's so much junk that comes in, right? We all remember when our former AA would just forward everything. So it's nice to have someone not.
Oh, this is not your CEC, that's just the general.
Yeah,
I read it to
the general.
I read it to be that you could, like on my Emily Hellstrom.
The
No.
DOE issue that. The DOE issues CEC 2.
Got it. Got it. Sorry, I misunderstood.
Okay. So 3 is the thing that says forward pertinent information from
Great.
that comes in. All right.
Okay. I don't like 4. Yeah. So I think that's unconstitutional.
I don't know how it's enforceable. I mean, so we all know I have that, and I had it because the old platform that we used before we got to Gmail was so cumbersome that I wanted to use Gmail, right? Like
Yeah, that's fine. As long as you don't say this is an official CEC D2 account, right? Why it seems to me that this is identifying words or acronyms, anything similar.
Do other people have feelings about this?
I do think I think it's tough to enforce.
I mean, this part seems interesting, like buying a domain name that.
I already did that. So.
For what purpose, Tom?
Yeah.
What? It was because I was being shut out of meetings, so I figured, all right, if I can't talk in my own meetings, then I'll have my own meeting. So I'm being honest, that's why I did it. I did nothing with it. I really just paid for it for no reason at this point. I've been too busy, but I have it. So I don't know how the ex post facto clause would go into this and things like that, but I have CEC D2.info with pretty much nothing up on it. But just to be able to post information about things in CEC District 2 in full transparency. But I haven't done anything.
So I guess I would hope that, I don't think that's great.
Yeah, no, I hear you. But
do you have a big disclaimer on top? This is a parody account.
yeah, kind of. I think I did it back in August, so there's really nothing on it. It's just the form. It's really just, I took the form of people helping out on like I don't know, Houses for Humanity or something like that. So it's really, it makes no sense right now. But I own the domain name.
I understand.
In full disclosure. Yeah.
But what I'm this last one, using a signature line with the CEC D2 affiliation, like for example, I mean, I send emails out all the time identifying myself as, you know, the CEC, that I'm on CEC D2, but I happen to use my MAC address.
Yeah, okay, well, what about other council members? Do you want to add? I mean, I know how this makes me uncomfortable. It makes Tom uncomfortable, but I want to hear from other people.
So it seems like this section 4 is intended to prevent conflicts of interest and other things like that, where the goal might be to misdirect receivers of the message into thinking that whatever action is being taken or promoted is in fact an official action of the CEC, as opposed to a personal action or a private interest. And you know, that in itself is a valid concern, just theoretically.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but so just having, or me personally, having a domain name similar to the official, so you can't put, this is a parody account in a domain name. You could put it on the website if you were to build one, but you can't just, so merely having the domain name is against the code of conduct. I don't know if I agree with that. And to Robin's point, like she was just using a CEC D2, I don't know, email address because it was easier. I mean, and if it's not for official, I don't know. I mean,
And I guess I don't know what the consequence is. Like,
Right.
if you do that, we have a rule in our bylaws, and then,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure why it was put in here, but.
I mean, I don't know, yes, we all
Yeah.
know why, but
Yeah,
I'm so sorry that I haven't been able to participate. in
unmute
my-
yourself, Emily.
yeah, thanks, Sheena.
No, I did that. Okay, I don't know, and we've lost a lot of people to have this.
So, so having this in place, whatever, having a similar name creates an environment where something inappropriate can happen, whether it's the public being misinformed or mistakenly thinking that your personal opinion or whatever is done out of your personal account with this name.
I wonder if we just add something that, I mean, it says, or otherwise be misconstrued as representing CEC positions, right?
Yeah,
So essentially, the way it's written now, as if you have your CEC D2.info website, and it's just like gobbledygook, it's still not in violation of the way this clause is written right now. Only if you start saying, like, announcing meetings that don't exist.
right, yeah, I mean,
Right?
I get that.
Or posting a resolution that and saying we passed it that we didn't pass or something.
But it says no members may create or use email accounts or otherwise.
That can be misconstrued.
Yeah, but I mean, in a sense, I have already created a domain name that could be misconstrued.
Well, you shouldn't do that.
I did it.
I know, but you shouldn't.
But I haven't used it for any harm. So I don't see.
So don't misconstrue CEC positions.
But I'm not doing that. But I've created, so what I'm saying is I'm not misrepresenting anything.
Okay, so
But I already own the domain name.
I think we should leave it in. I think we could take out the specific examples. And I think we should take out the signature line. And I think if people behave poorly, then they've misconstrued.
Okay.
Excuse me, can you hear me, Robin?
Now I can, Edward.
Yeah.
Why don't we put in here, instead of official CEC emails, approved CEC emails? So for example, if we vote on something and we say, okay, Tom's email is fine and we've approved it, then it can be used. Because that's a little bit ambiguous, other than official CEC emails. Because what I'm hearing is that sometimes we use other emails because the official ones are cumbersome and so forth. So if we put approved CEC emails or put language to that effect, what do you think about that?
Well,
can you hear me?
I muted Tom by mistake.
Tom?
Sorry.
Okay, no, it's all right. I unmuted me.
I meant to mute myself.
Just real quick though, I mean, I already own something,
Right.
so I've already paid for something. So if we were to put this in, sure, going forward, okay, but this would be a violation of the takings clause, in my opinion, if we were to pass this and enforce it retroactively.
No, we won't enforce it retroactively. It's
okay.
I mean, what do you think about that language, approved CEC emails?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like if somebody wants to have it, yeah.
So Edward, did you, I think we might have to consider whether or not, despite what we decide about this particular issue, whether in the larger sense, it might be a violation of the code of conduct applicable to us as members. I think we got the orientation a year and a half ago about code of conduct and conflict of interest as incoming board members or council members. And so there's a lot of general language about appropriate conduct and things like that, conflict of interest. So, you know, I guess I feel like it's important to consider what other things apply before just unilaterally deciding we can approve emails to be approved.
What if we're gonna leave in number 4, temporarily change official to approved. I still want to strike that last line about our signatures.
I agree, because that's even in, if you have a LinkedIn account
But wait, I just
or
want to finish.
Twitter. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. And then to Vincent's point, I can go back through those materials and see if there's a glaring disconnect. And that could be a piece that, you know, we can leave, I think we can leave a few marginal pieces open to still discuss at the future, as long as we're like almost there at the end of this meeting.
Well, how about this? We can amend the bylaws at any meeting. Can we table this specific section?
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
this seems like a broader conversation that maybe everybody, there's a few members that aren't here right now.
So we are going to, the suggestion is to table the conversation of this. You know, we want to, I do think that there's an urgency. We want to get new bylaws up and running. And then this we can work on, and if we have to, then amend them again, just to include this, to have a larger conversation with everybody.
I agree. I personally don't have a problem, like when people send Gmails that say CEC, but I didn't know anything about domain names. I thought the only domain name was the one we had for the CEC.
Yeah, it's not a CEC domain name. It's just one that's similar.
Tom, that's a problem, Tom.
What?
They're gonna think it's me sending things out.
But I don't send out anything from it. I just own it.
Right.
So it doesn't matter right now.
Too is it could end up you're saying, trust me, I'm not doing anything bad, but like Yvette's saying, like, but someone could buy this domain name and people will think it's me.
I see what you're saying. But I mean, at the same time, I already have it. So I think this is a broader conversation at the moment. I'm not using it right now, and you could have something in there, but
so we're gonna,
I need to figure out what to do with this and how. All right, am I going to be reimbursed for my purchase? I mean, if you're telling me that I can't have something that I already paid for, no. So
okay, let's take this up separately then.
yeah.
But this is gonna be we're gonna have to talk about it in a working business meeting with the whole council present.
Yeah.
Okay. Is everyone else okay with that?
Yes, that's good. That's good.
Ed? Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay. If a member sends, this I think is terrible.
I'm just not sure what it's saying. Is it saying, so it's,
if I want to write an email to NICED and I say in the email, I'm on the CEC, and I'm obligated to copy the entire CEC on my email.
No.
Yeah, I don't see.
Or Vincent, did you have some insight as to what you guys were talking about when you were doing that?
I mean, I'm just going to guess that it has something to do with this, whatever, NICEP grant. I mean, this isn't me, but.
Yeah, I don't remember anything on this particular provision, but.
This here is definitely a violation of the First Amendment, which I do not. You
yeah.
have to talk to members of the press and tell them that you've been appointed or elected to the CEC.
Right. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I mean, this seems like a huge infringement upon speech and freedom.
Well, it doesn't say that you can't do that. It only says you have to let everybody else know that you did that.
Still, it's still an infringement.
You can't compel someone to
Let's strike it. Let's strike it then.
Okay, I agree. Well, I'm gonna send out the updated version, and I'm gonna tell everybody the parts that we ended up removing and why. So there's still gonna be more opportunity to discuss this if the people that aren't in the meeting anymore want to come back and talk about why they think this is a critical part of running the council smoothly.
Okay, yeah. Just, I don't know about this clause. I just commented on it, but
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I'm right here. No.
this is fine. I just don't know why it has to be in the bylaws.
Yeah, so this is the issue I have with this, and I think it's something that most people may have. Like, if you have CEC D2, even like you're a member of it on your Twitter account, like just listed as who you are, or say on your LinkedIn account, then all communications would be required to say that this is not the opinion of the council. And to me, that's
Hello?
obvious. Emily, yeah. So it's obvious, and if I'm messaging a recruiter on LinkedIn, it would be weird for me to tell them that because I have CEC D2 listed as, you know, a membership, that my communications with the recruiter are in representations of the Community Education Council District.
Let's strike that too. Let's strike.
Yeah. I mean,
It's also like not, I don't always love the comparisons to other elected bodies, but obviously like Chuck Schumer doesn't have to be like what I'm saying, what I'm tweeting now is,
yeah, I'm not speaking on the entire Senate, but I mean, come on.
okay.
Let's strike that.
All right. Okay.
I mean,
what do you consider appropriate attire?
yeah, exactly. I'm wearing a t-shirt, I apologize.
Although, I mean, I guess there are commonly understood, I'm thinking back to the commercial where the guy thinks that he's going to a Zoom meeting and then his guests are right out in front of him in the
I was
garden.
told that this was born of someone at a meeting in the public, not one of the members who didn't have a shirt on.
Ah, okay. Well, I mean, it's okay to have it because, you know, we're not going to expect suit and tie for every meeting.
I think we should go black tie meetings, like meeting tuxedo.
Is that, could you make Ben a co-host, please?
We'll strike these two, I think. They're an overreaction, I think.
Which two are you referring to?
The public respectfully dress in appropriate attire for all CEC meetings.
That's fine. I agree. It's patronizing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think two really adds anything. Endeavor to understand.
Again, at putting this in bylaws, I just think is makes me very uncomfortable.
I feel like perhaps there should be like a separate document that's a less strict thing than the bylaws, as like a code of conduct. It could be like if you, I mean, it's like house rules or something like that, you know, that are less.
And how much of this is already in Robert's rules anyway?
Yes.
Like, I'm sure Robert's rule says you can't physically threaten people.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And no personal
I don't think there's anything wrong with having house rules.
I agree. Maybe that's, I'm sorry, Emily.
No. I just
what
think
if
that's what they should be?
What if the bylaw says, just has a something like, at the start of each new term, members of the council can come up with house rules or code of conduct. I don't want to obligate anyone to do anything.
So none of this was in the bylaws previously? Is that
correct?
the case?
None of this was in either the bylaws we're operating under now, nor was it under the template provided by FACE.
but we were always subject to a code of conduct in
That
any event.
was, right. And for all I know, this is copied and pasted from the code of conduct you're referring to, Vincent. Why don't we look into that?
Yeah, we could table the code of conduct discussion and figure out whether it belongs in bylaws or in a separate document.
Okay,
I mean, just to get the new bylaws out,
I agree.
you know?
Is everyone else okay with that?
Yeah,
That's here?
Sure.
yes.
Okay.
It's not that I don't think that there should be one. I just feel like yeah.
Yeah, some of it's too broad too. I mean, then it just comes down to how you feel personally
Like,
about people, and I don't really like that.
Or also maintain conformity. I don't even understand.
I don't understand that either.
Copied and pasted, Vincent. I bet you're right, and I bet this comes from a code of conduct we're already like obligated to follow, and then we just decide if we think we stick it in the bylaws as a sort of added. Okay, and then that makes the remedies section, I think, also needs to be discussed more broadly. That's my opinion.
I agree.
So do you think the impetus for putting this stuff in the bylaws is kind of similar to the effort to codify the absences issue? If it wasn't there, then nothing could be done. And so if it isn't here.
I mean, I think I know why that this is in here. And there's been behavior on the council that I know was concerned me and upset me, right? And I know other people were concerned and upset by my behavior on the council at meetings. So we all know why this is here, and it's not in a vacuum, and that's important. And I think like maybe now we're in a better space to talk about it, though.
I agree, and I think this is part of a longer discussion, probably, you know, so.
Yeah, but we ought not to overreact because we have, you know, a contentious meeting, and try to codify everything and restrict our rights. That's why I think a lot of this should be stricken.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, but by the same token, I do think that there can be, I mean, like, I know, I'm just likening it to like my apartment, you know, there's something called house rules that say, you know, if you have a party, then you should notify your neighbors. And like, they're not laws. They still, though, hold weight because they get handed to everybody when they come into the apartment, and you know, we refer to them. I just think that they're not in our signing documents, that if you know, rent your apartment, they're not in the lease, that they go along with the lease. So to me, that's how I separate them. They're still there and codified, Vincent, but they just aren't in the actual legal document of bylaws.
Okay.
And I don't actually, I'm not sure how I feel about like codifying remedies and stuff. I might think it's a good idea, but I know we've been in the meeting now for 2 hours, and there's a lot of really good stuff in these new bylaws that Maud and Len and Eric and Sheena worked on for a while, and that we've like clarified a little bit.
Yep.
So I like the idea of getting the stuff that there's like real consensus on out, and then maybe having another working business meeting where we just have where everyone comes, we say we're only talking about the code of conduct. Should it be the bylaws?
Yeah.
Should it be a separate thing?
I would agree with that.
I agree as well.
Okay, good. So are we moving to getting or adjourning this meeting shortly?
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah, let's do that.
So I'm gonna state what the action that I think will come out of this. So we have a meeting in a week. So my goal is, I'm terrible with procrastinating, but I'm committing in public that I'm gonna, by tomorrow, I'm gonna have the product of this meeting out to everybody, and then we can share it at our December working business meeting. Excuse me, our December calendar meeting. It will be disseminated. It'll be on the website. We will mention, it'll be on the agenda that it exists with the goal to vote on it in January.
Yep.
And also included in that is a commitment to work on the parts that we've stricken but still think might be up for consideration in bylaws.
Sounds good. Sounds great.
Good.
I would like to say one thing because I came late and I just noticed that you have a email prohibition. And when we first joined, some of us joined the council in July of 2019, there were no emails available to many of the council members because there was an account problem.
Yeah, Ben, just to update you, we're taking that out.
Oh, that's being removed? Okay.
Yeah, for now. We said we revisit that section with that and the domain name, but for now, in what we present, it's not going to be in it. It's not going to be what we vote on.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because that would also be, if there are technical problems, you should still be able to send out emails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a similar thing, Ben, when I first joined the council. And that's why I have my own email that has CEC in it. There's
Yeah, I have a CEC Gmail email because I didn't have an email the first month.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So Ben, obviously you and will include it's what you'll see. It's pretty similar to what had come out of the original bylaws subcommittee, but we just made some changes at the margins, I think.
Okay.
And that will go out. All right. Edward, you're president. Would you like to make a motion to adjourn or something?
Okay, I move that we adjourn this meeting, and thank you very much, everyone.
I second it.
Goodbye,
All in
everyone.
favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, Frank.
How do I get off of this?